Hello everyone, my name is Miller and welcome to the rundown of the Hypercar Forum event, the first of 3 for the Hypercar Festival, and I do hope this does not set a precedent for the other ones, as I'm not too pleased with how this event ran. It really is an event that I looked forward to become one of the best events out there, but the truth is that for newer players, this is an impossible event, basically without paying at least $100 on the Apollo alone. If you were to have luck on the crates, and you could use every single fusion part from it. But realistically, you're looking more at the amount of 150 to 170 on that car alone, which is crazy. In short, it's an unbalanced event and you'll see later why. A second remark is that the 935 has now been nerfed, it can't run a 6.89 anymore, which was recorded yesterday. Right now it's a 7.1 car, making the McLaren F1, fully deleted, back the fastest car in game. On the other hand, there is some good news to where the event has been extended, because in the first few days of the event when it launched, not everyone had the update, so we were missing out on parts, etc. But I think an event this big should not be limited to only 7 days, and should have lasted like any other finale style event for a period of 12 to 14 days. The advantage of the 7 days, however, is that we will all be able to get the loyalty on the crates without being forced to buy extra, which is a good thing in my book. At first, the crates for the ESCO did not work if you only owned the white version. This has now been fixed to where it works for any ESCO variant. Again here, there is no need to buy the more expensive crates, you can just stick to the first one and take advantage of the daily free crate and the cheaper loyalties. Back to the event now, the ladder spreads over 70 races, with 5 lock-ins, of which 2 can be used free cars. Later more on the slots. The rewards in itself are also slightly disappointing, with the total being 1,970,000 cash for 5 tier 5 cars, 385 gold coins, 10 uncommon, 7 rare and 9 epic fusion parts. That is a total of 26 fusion parts, that's not even enough to upgrade a fifth of one car. 5 stage 6 parts, 1 for the Regera, 1 for the Zenvo, 2 for the ESCO, none for the Apollo and 1 for the Senna. We're almost there to an even spread, but not there yet. 980 bronze keys, which is nice. No silver keys and only 7 gold keys? One flash event gives you 10 gold keys, and this is basically 3 flash events together and we only get 7. Then 500 green tokens, which is not even enough to upgrade 1 level on my F1, 80 blue tokens, 40 red tokens and 4 gold ones, which I can't use because I'm too short on green ones, like anyone else basically. Rewards here to me are disappointing. The green tokens should have been quadrupled at least, more fusion parts with this difficulty level, and gold coins can always be upped. But most important, more gold keys. We have a holy trinity coming up with 3 cars on a drop rate. We have the Regera drop rate right now, and who knows, even a golden cup in between. We won't get far with only these 7. It should have been at least 20 or 30 here to get its more value. I know I might sound like a choosing beggar right now, but the added value of the event, aside of rewarding the 935, is not that big. This really needs some rethinking to make rewards more worth it and more valuable to the players. As for difficulty level, it is super inconsistent again. Some cars are doable with 2 to 3 stage 6 parts, and the other one is just an Evo Cup level difficulty. I will go over each car, and for testing purposes I tried to run everything at stage 5 to start off with, to see how newer players would get to do this, having loads of fusion parts but no stage 6 parts. The first lock-in was the easiest one, the Koenigsegg Regera, a car which has been in game for quite some time now and got its long deserved buff in the update to even a 7.2. If you don't have this car yet, you can pull it from the drop rate on the crates. To win its stage 6 part on race number 11, you had to run faster than 11.924, which is quite doable. The hardest race came quite early on race 26, where you can beat the hardest time on stage 5 fully fused, tune and the hardest race. Then the second slot, basically any Zenvo. You can either go free if you have the car already, or you have to buy the chassis number 2 blue version TSRS from the dealership as a $20 car. It has a different performance than the red Evo Cup version you could have won for free last year, seeming to be a tad slower, which to me again makes no sense. Again, this one, the difficulty is quite reasonable, considering Zenvo is freely available in game and had an Evo Cup in the past, enabling crates for free back then. I would have preferred to see the Zenvo crates also to be bronze keys if you chose to either go for the Gold Star TS1 JT or the TSRS. The Stage 6 race came quite early on race 7, where you had to be faster than a 14.888. Definitely easy obtainable. For the hardest race on race 53, I had to soup it up with 2 Stage 6 parts, being tires and transmission, which in my eyes is acceptable for an event like this. But having all fusion parts is quite hard, so I'm on the fence on this one. Tune and run. Onto the first paid car, the Koenigsegg Jesko. So you can either use the already owned white Jesko from past Flash events and you can continue for free, or you will have to buy the Draco Red edition, which again is slightly slower. But that could be due to the fact that the Draco Red does not have the super light carbon rims. Anyways, this is a beast of a car on stage 5 running 8.2, so this one can get you really far into the event. And ironically, then this is the car that rewards 2 stage 6 parts. One on race 17, where you have to run faster than an 11.786. And then a second one on race 23, if you can run faster than an 11.111. Again, very doable. For the hardest race, 1 stage 6 part can be enough. If you have body stage 6 installed like I did on this car, you can basically blast through it. The final race was quite achievable. Tune and run. Fourth lock-in being the slowest car of the bunch and the biggest pain, the Apollo Intensa Mozione. Again, here you can either use the pre-owned purple version, which was a Flash event 2 years ago, or buy the new black carbon edition, which is slightly faster according to the dyno. I used my pre-owned purple version, which maxed out should run at 7.34. And like mentioned earlier, no stage 6 race for this one, which sucks as it could have come to good use for sure. What I really do not like about this car is that I'm, despite having it now for almost 2 years, still coming 24 fusions short, making it not fast enough to beat the event. I had to buy 2 more crates to beat the event, requiring 117 fusion parts on top of all stage 6 parts. So let's say you're new and you want to get this car and beat the event, and you have to get 117 fusion parts. Let's say the event gives you 7 usable fusion parts, 110 fusion parts are still left to get. And let's assume every crate gives you 5 usable parts, which is not the case as after 80 or 70 fusion parts, some cases only give you 1 useful one, but let's say all 5, ideally. That is still 22 crates. Okay, subtract 7 from the daily free crate, that is 15 still. Times 4.59 for the price of 1 crate, that is 68.85 on top of the 22 for buying this car alone. But if you want to go to more realistic numbers, you will need beyond 150, as most crates become useless at some point. This is way too much, killing the entire buzz of the event. This should be an 8.5 to 8.7 final time, considering how poor it really is on stage 5 and how rare fusion parts are. I'm not really liking this, to be fair. It's unbalanced, and if you're new, just don't pay for it. It's not worth it. Anyways, fully stage 6, 117 fusion parts, tune and hardest time, absolutely ridiculous. Then the final slot for the McLaren Senna, a car which was recently available for the Best of British and is another car which is quite good on stage 5, with McLaren fusion parts being commonly available. This one here is also quite hard, but considering fusion parts are more common, I think it is a bit more fair than the Apollo, but still hard, requiring at least 4 stage 6 parts next to having it all fused up. The stage 6 race was, like the others, on the other hand, quite beatable, with a 15.0, but then the final time is very spicy. The tune that I used running 4 stage 6 parts being engine, nitrous, body and transmission, and then the final race. So once that is done, onto the final ladder race, and this then goes even a step harder. The tip here is to tune all your cars to the quarter mile before launching it, and for the upgrades I added some stage 6 parts, 2 to the Regera, 1 to the Esco to a total of 2, and 1 to the Zenvo to a total of 3. The Apollo then had them all, and the Senna the same 4 from earlier. I will put the full relay race at the end, but you basically need to be faster than 27 seconds over 5 races, which is quite hard, I would say. The reward then is a Porsche 935 with a Martini Racing livery. It is an amazing car which has been nerfed to 7.1 sadly, but nonetheless I think a car many would want, but is impossible to reach for newer players without putting down 200 plus into the event. To where I would say just better not to take part in it and save your money. I do like that newer versions of the cars are available, but I do not understand to why they have a different performance. As for an event, I was hoping it to just be that tad more, with all great cars running 7.2, but an event celebrating hypercars, where you need expensive cars to start with, but a level harder than a finale or series, that makes no sense to me. There was no build up for many players to prepare, so they have to pay a lot more just to get it done. And people like me having the cars already from in the past can almost get a free event, but still hard considering the Apollo and the Senna need to be almost maxed out. If it were my choice, I would have put the difficulty on the Senna half a second slower to an 8.0, requiring you still 1 to 2 stage 6 parts fully fused, which is more reasonable, and then for the Apollo a full second slower. Like this, it's another event which to me was just not enjoyable, and even less for newer players. It's not as bad as the Best of British, but the Apollo for sure is harder than any of those cars back then. It had so much potential and just does not match expectations. The others I would say are quite okay. It's just that the rotten apple has to be removed. 200 alone for one car is just not okay. And that is that for today's video. I'm really not too happy with this event. It could have been again so much more. I'm not claiming this is greed, I put this more onto bad judgment and not really taking into mind the Apollo is a massive bottleneck. If the Apollo was left out or placed in a different slot and races rewarded more fusion parts, I would have said this would have been a good event like it should have been. Now it's kind of a buzzkill, and I cannot recommend it to newer players looking for that 935, because that car is just not worth it 250 plus bucks. If you enjoyed the video, do not hesitate to leave a like, subscribe for more content like this. My name is Mille, see you around, and keep racing.